Olympic finals.
Australia won in Munich, Lucerne World Cup, and Poland on the far side. Poland, who've been sixth at the last two World Championships and fifth back in 2005. It's a decent on the rest of the Polish squad. Here are Great Britain in lane number 2, bronze medalist last year in Munich. And next to them, Australia. Australia, who, as I said, won the Munich World Cup. Martin Rabjohn's there, Coxon, Steve Stewart and Samuel Conrad at stroke and 7 respectively. And then Canada, coached by Mike Spracklin, with Brian Price, the fixture, the coxswain, and Carl Hamilton in the stroke seat, Adam Krieg. Incidentally, many years ago, it was Brian Price who fought off cancer. And when he does his speaking engagements, he explains that it was the treatment that actually left him as a little small chap, but it's done him no harm in his competitive career. And quite a character. And then completing the lineup, China, interesting to see how they go in lane number 5 with Zhang and Wang there, coxswain and stroke, and Germany, Peter Tide, as ever, the coxswain for Germany, Bernd Heidecker, great stroke, sitting in front of Philipp Stur and Torsten Engelmann at 7 and 6. You could say again, Hugh, they must now be wishing that they qualified a bit faster to have got themselves out of lane 6.
Indeed, but this German 8 has, although it's their #1 crew, although it's been training together for a very long time, although Engelmann left Cambridge straight after the boat race in 2007 in order to join this crew, it hasn't been functioning properly and did look out of sorts at Munich and did look out of sorts in the repechage for this race. So I think Germany may have to rethink its 8 altogether between now and Poznan. We'll see how they go this afternoon.
Here we go then, the final race, the men's 8, Poland on the far side, Great Britain 2 from the top, Australia, Canada, China and Germany close to you, and away we go. Germany very distinctive in the pink 8 closest to you. And the first 250 metres of this are going to be fascinating to see whether anybody can get a significant edge.
Well, look at Canada, they're right up already. Canada are drawn straight out of the field and they've got a third of a length or something like that. You can see there from the position of Jake Wetzel as he went through. So that's Canada in the lead by a small margin, but nevertheless taking China with them and Australia, so that the chevron is set out with Canada at the sharp end, China and Germany to their left, Australia, Great Britain and Poland to the right. But that's quite a big margin, and it's China who are managing to profit from the Canada speed there. And China second here a year ago, but then falling back to 7th at the World Championships. Same 8, lost its way a bit, but back on form now, and I would have thought pretty hard to beat. So Canada probably employing the only tactic to stay ahead of China. We've seen China triumph in so many events today that we realise that their whole team, some conductor somewhere has his baton in the air and is bringing this whole team up to a crescendo. And look at them, China out in second place, Canada drawing away from Australia and Great Britain, and really it's only China putting pressure on them.
Yes, it's great peaking now, but if you'll excuse the pun, it's peaking in Peking that matters.
Well, I'll stick to peaking in Beijing to try and avoid any unnatural puns, David. But quite impressed there by the British 8, actually, because they've managed to get Australia, who did well in the opening rounds. They're using, Great Britain is using Australia as a stepping stone, as a magnet to draw them along. And Britain now in 3rd position, and it's Canada definitely dominating China. But it'll be interesting to see whether China has another trick to play, as that women's quad showed us something quite out of this world in their final sprint.
Yeah, Britain and Australia were separated by less than a second in Munich. So one would expect them to be racing pretty tightly. Poland on the far side struggling a little bit, and Germany well off the pace. You can just see the bow on the left of your screen of the German 8, and they are struggling.
I think they've got the TV boat blues apart from anything else, and well, they wouldn't live in this pace.
I'll tell you what, Hugh, if that is correct, your assessment of what's been happening to the crews in lane 6, then there ought to be a very thorough investigation, because that shouldn't be allowed to happen.
Well, we've been saying it. I mean, this has been a universal truth since I last raced here in 1980. So
yeah, but there are other boats, there are other ways to achieve what you want to achieve without doing that. But nonetheless, let's have a look at China and Canada now. Canada, Brian Price and Carl Hamilton, Adam Creek, Dominic Seidele, Malcolm Howard, Jake Wetzel, James Burns and Ben Rutledge and Kevin Light. That's the 8. And just thinking about Jake Wetzel, wasn't he involved with Derek Porter at one time? He was thinking of making a humongous effort to come back.
They were, but Wetzel is back. He's going to Oxford next year to start his PhD in some branch of economics at the Matthew Said Business School, and he's a wandering scholar of rowing, he has the lack of hair to show it.
I'll tell you what,
there he is.
They're enjoying this, you know. I mean,
I would too if I was that far front.
They are really, the Canadians are really enjoying this now, because look at this, 500 metres to go.
And it's Great Britain's, oh no it's not, it is China still in second place, but the Brits closing on China.
Well, I think the Canadians reckon now that they've dealt with China.
They've dealt with China, and China hasn't got another trick in its locker. That's what we were waiting to see. There's still 500 metres to go, but I don't think they can take back a length. That's a big margin.
There's the bearded Carl Hamilton in the stroke seat there, and as you said, I don't think that anything can happen. What will be interesting is the duel over on the far side there between Britain and Australia. Now, Australia got the better of Great Britain in Munich, but it's looking the other way. Now, Asa Nethercott and Alistair Heathcote is in the stroke seat there, and at the moment, Alex Partridge, Richard Eggington, Josh West, Tom Salisbury, Matthew Langridge and Tom Stallard, they're doing a pretty good job.
Crucial to this crew is the return of Alistair Heathcote at stroke. He was missing in Munich, and he is the rhythm of this. They had Colin Smith in that seat. He's gone into the 4. Heathcote's back in the 8, and it's looking very solid there.
Last 100 metres, and it's Canada who are flowing beautifully ahead of China, who are solid in second place. Great Britain holding on to third. Australia are in 4th place. Germany have never been at the races, neither have Poland. But the last victory of the regatta goes to Canada, the world champions, and they take it ahead of China, closing Great Britain. Good credit from them. And then Australia in 4th place over on the far side. Coming in 6th place, just behind Germany, are Poland.
Interesting, you didn't see it there, we didn't get the picture, but the Chinese crew would now collapsed in the foreground behind that label of Canada. They were really aggressive and cheering and arms in the air to take that silver medal. That obviously was a target set them by their coaches. They achieved it, and they think they're on their way to Beijing in some form, because that was a very interesting piece of body language through the line there. Canada doing what it does best, winning the race, turning the boat already turning round, but the Chinese cocks on his feet, all the oarsmen with their hands in the air, and some message was being given to the world by that race.
Well, the Chinese, I mean, the two nations that have stood out as a group here at Lucerne have been China and America.
Yes. United States emerging on the scene, having just finished their trials and come across. They're all fresh boats, or practically all fresh boats. Women's 8 is reasonably stable, 1 or 2 others, but by and large they're fresh boats. They've got a lot of competition in the small boats behind the team, the camp boats, and they are a much stronger looking team in depth than we've seen for a year or two. That's the Olympics. That's the influence of the Olympics. It's brought people out of the woodwork in the United States. Canada conforming to their known high standards in the big boats, and by and large struggling in the smaller boats. Australia on the scene, big team, very well organised, but probably a bit jet lagged. New Zealand, big team of small boats, very, very well organised, also suffering from jet lag, but a real marker being thrown down by Rob Waddell, because if he and Cohen can win the double sculls when none